and that's one that I know that
Don't you just apply and you get it?
sometimes,
Yeah. Okay.
once in a while, that works. So yeah, it doesn't always work, right? There's ways to help improve the odds for that, right?
Seems like a lot of people are having trouble doing that, getting
Sure they
money
are.
from a bank.
Sure they are. Well, let me reinforce a couple things. When we talk about the whole idea of a small business, what we're talking about is typically anywhere from 1 to 25 employees. And when we coach our clients, we coach them on the 7 keys to success and coach them to have growing sustainable profits. Our 7 keys to success, you can find a nice graphic of that if you go on our website, MaximumVP.com. There's a menu item called the MVP Playbook. And you click on that and you'll see a nice graphic for our 7 keys to success. And our 2 keys here today that we're going to focus on are presenting as well as cash forecasting. So those are numbers 6 and 7, or 7 and 6, presenting and cash forecasting. One of the keys with any time you want to go to the bank is go there before you need the money. As silly as that sounds, if you go before you need the money, that increases your odds tremendously. Even if you just go and apply, as Jack is saying. If you don't need it, chances of you getting the money will be much, much higher. Okay, so it starts there.
That starts there. That's
Starts
correct.
there,
That's picking the time. That's right.
So in this case, we had this client of ours had just actually increased his line of credit about 18 months ago, but had some growth on the horizons that he's planning for. And said, hey, I need some more cash. So where I'm at now, if these deals happen that I'm working on, I want to be out of cash quickly. He said, okay, well, this is a good time to go and get your story ready to go present to your bank. Now, keep in mind when you're doing this that not all bankers are created equally. Okay, what does that mean? Well, if you're like most owners of small companies, the story of our client's probably pretty similar to yours. So, like I said, he'd gone back and increased his line of credit 18 months ago, but since that time, he had been assigned a new business banker. Now, how many of you have had a banker for more than a year or two to be assigned to your account? If you're raising your hand, you are in the vast minority. Vast minority. It's not like it used to be in the good old days where you had a banker for 20 years and you followed that person around, and even if they changed banks, you'd gone with them. The way it works today is typically over the course of 5 or 6 years, you typically have a handful of bankers as part of that.
Well, we find it kind of humorous when you look at banking commercials, and maybe they're on the downside or they're heading out. But basically, when banks talk about relationship banking and how they work hard on relationships, well, these guys change so fast and are reshuffled, and between mergers and internal issues that you never get the same guy for over a year. It's almost impossible.
Right. Well, and the relationship that they're talking about is with your money. So another key thing is if you've used the bank before, and I mean by that, if you have bank accounts open there where you're depositing money, that's always a good way to help the relationship. That's a good starting point as well. So with our coming back to our client here for a second, so he had a new banker, and when I say that not all bankers are created equally, and each bank's going to be different. Okay, so the bank he was working with was a pretty sizable bank here in the Cleveland area, and he was part of their small business banking group. Now, not everybody defines small business the way Jack and I do in terms of being 1 to 25 employees. When it comes to bankers, usually it tells you how much they can lend. Okay, and so in our client's case, he was going to be bumping up against how much he was looking to get.
Very, very internal focused. Internal relative to bank procedures, processes, limits, and not customer friendly for the most part.
Right.
Easy to get negative on banks.
Yes, it is. But just to give you a sense, typically a small business banker can usually lend anywhere maybe up to $250,000 to maybe $500,000 in terms of like lines of credit, or in terms of what they can be exposed to. So maybe lines of credit, it could be for equipment loans or whatever it might be. But for their being to have dollars out to a particular customer is often they get limited at maybe $250,000 to $500,000. And once you get to that limit, it doesn't mean that the bank's going to get rid of you, but it means you now go into a different part of the bank. And so they may call it like the middle market bank or some creative name like that, right? And usually at that point, they can go, if, let's say that the original bankers caught up at $500,000, they might go from that $500,000 maybe up to $10 or $20 million. That's a pretty big range, but you now made that to that next level. So I bring this up just from the standpoint because the amount of money that our client was looking for was putting him into a place where he's probably going to be going above and beyond what this new banker was going to do. Because what he wanted to do is he wanted to get this new banker in and present to her and explain what his company was about, and then say, here's what I'm looking for you to do. So what we did is we encouraged him to call the banker before, because he asked, well, should I just send him an email? I said, no, time out. Don't email. Going back to the comment earlier, make sure you call somebody, and just say, here's what I'm looking to do, and tell her how much money you're looking for, and say, I want to make sure that you can be the one to kind of carry that through. What happened was that his new banker came, and she brought somebody else with her, who was this middle market banker, and we had gone through a dry run a couple of times with our client to get him prepared, to kind of get the information pulled together.
That's a big part of what we do. That's
Yeah.
the big part of the presentation.
So making sure he was able to tell his story, and you tell it in enough detail to kind of get the banker excited, but and enough background, but not too much detail, and then be able to kind of say, here's why I need the money. And wouldn't you know it, that within 20 minutes of having this discussion, these two bankers are whispering to each other and talking about other parts of the bank that have to get to know this client of ours. So I said, I think the meeting went pretty well, because they're getting excited. Hey, you got to meet John over here in this part of the bank, and this area where they're all of a sudden they're looking for other ways that they can lend him more money, which sounds pretty obvious, right? Because there are banks, and banks are in the business to be able to loan money. But it's amazing how some act. Your comment earlier, Jack, that it should be easy. You just fill out the application and they give you money, right? Well, they are in the business of lending money. Many banks make it very difficult to do
lend
that.
it. That's right. They get in their own way an awful lot. There's a lot of regulations that are imposed on them, but they use that also as reasons not to do.
Well, but a big chunk of it comes back to the fact that most owners aren't able to present themselves very well, or tell their story well. So our client was able to tell his story pretty well, and we let him know too. It's okay to ask the banker questions about the process, because each bank's gonna be a little bit different. But usually your banker can't give a thumbs up or thumbs down on it. They have to take your story, and they're now the internal advocate that goes to some committee somewhere in the bank that meets every so often to approve or disapprove your request. So you got to understand what the process looks like, and make sure again that you're dealing with the person who can actually carry the ball, but also tell your story and be your advocate, because chances are you aren't going to get to meet the committee. The underwriting committee is not somebody that you get to meet. It's your banker trying to be able to tell that story.
Well, a big part of what we do, Adam, is to kind of quell the anxiety for a lot of owners of small businesses. To them, a $50,000, when we talk 1 to 25 employees, those are small companies, and a $50,000 line of credit is a big deal. And for them to jump from there to $250,000, it's like, I can't do it. I mean, it's almost an intimidating thought to go that high and go beyond that. So much of what we do in the preparation is, first of all, say, look, your company, based on this analysis, a quick analysis of your financials, would allow you to go to this kind of credit line comfortably. Just because you're at a much lower one now, don't worry about it. If you present, and you can present a good case if your numbers are decent, you belong on those platforms, and we do that often with our clients. We make them believe in themselves, because they don't. They just don't have the inputs to get that confidence.
Yeah, for those of you who know us well, we're always going to kind of push our clients that way. And as you're talking, the visuals coming up in my mind from the movie Coming to America, and Arsenio Hall's character Semi is going to, they spent all their money. He's going to ask for some more money. He's at the Western Union station in Queens, right? He's asking for I think he asked for $250,000 originally, and then
he's a king of a country.
Well, his friend's father is, yeah. So the person behind says, well, should I ask for more? Why don't you ask for a cool $1 million, right? So he kind of keeps on pushing him along. We're a little better than that in terms of we make sure that you have a good story to tell versus just kind of throw it against the wall, right? But you got to make sure that it's okay to ask for more. If you can tell your story well, it helps a ton. So presenting is a big deal. All right, thank you for joining us again today here on Dirty